we're going to identify two consecutive integers in which each square root lies between. 10 is not a perfect square because there's no number times itself to give us 10. However, we remember 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49. As we continue on, those are perfect squares. So what we have to do is we have to figure out what two integers does this lie between. First of all, it comes between the square root of 9 and the square root of 16. So that means it comes between 3 and 4. The whole numbers 3 and 4, integers 3 and 4, because again, perfect square 9, square root of 9 is 3, and then the square root of 16 is 4. So it comes between the numbers 3 and 4, the answer. All right, what about 115? What perfect square comes before 115? The 100. And then the perfect square of 121 will follow. So this is going to be, what's the square root of 100? 10. Square root of 121, 11. So this will come between numbers 10 and 11. All right, the square root of 59 comes between the square root of 49, which is 7, and the square root of 64, which is 8. So this comes between the two integers 7 and 8. All right, so we're looking at now the opposite of the square root of 41. So this is going to come between 36 and 49. All right, and remember, you're going to look at the opposite of that. So the square root of 36 is 6, so the opposite of that is going to be negative 6. And the square root of 49, the opposite of the square root of 49 is going to be negative 7. So it's going to come between negative 6 and negative 7. For this one, it will come between the opposite of the square root of 1 and the opposite of the square root of 4. In this case, we get negative 1 and negative 2 is what it will come between. And finally, for the opposite of the square root of 206, it comes between the square root of 14 and the square root of 15. Anyone know what 14 squared is? 196 if you guess. So the opposite of the square root of 196, which is negative 14, and 15, the opposite of the square root of 225 is 15. So this is going to be negative 15 for this answer. All right, so now we have to approximate square roots. What we're really going to do here is use the same concept of what perfect squares it falls between. So what two perfect squares does 84 fall between? So I'm going to go ahead and write the square root of 84. And here in a different color, I'm going to mark the perfect square that comes before it and the one that comes after. So which one comes before 84? 81. So the square root of 81, which is 9. All right, and actually I can put it here. So 9 is what we get when we get the square root of 81. And then which one is going to come after? 10 squared, which is going to be 100. The square root of 100 is 10. We know that 84 is closer to 81. And remember, this answer is going to come between the numbers 9 and 10, so it's going to be a decimal. You can go ahead and put a decimal after 9 because it's going to be 9 decimal point something. Remember, you don't want to go over. So you simply need to now use a calculator to multiply some decimal numbers. All right, I'm going to multiply 9.1 times 9.1 and see what I get. All right, when you do that, you end up with 82 and 81 hundredths. All right, so 9.1 squared is 82 and 81 hundredths. Let's try 9 and 2 tenths squared, which is 9 and 2 tenths times 9 and 2 tenths. All right, so 9 and 2 tenths squared is going to give us 84 and 64 hundredths. All right, so as we take a look here, we can clearly see that this one went over slightly. So we can say our answer is approximately 9.1. We can make this a little more precise, and we can go and try a number like 9.15 squared and see if it gets us closer without going over. So let's try that. 9 and 15/100 times itself is going to give us 83 and 72/100. So that gets us closer, and if we want to round that 5, we're going to say here that our answer is approximately 9.2. So it's just a matter of guessing and checking. And this is not accurate, it's just an approximation. Alright, so now we're going to find the opposite of the square root of 27. 27 is not a perfect square, so we need to take a look at the square root of 25, or the opposite of the square root of 25, and the opposite of the square root of 36. That's going to be negative 5, and negative 6 is what two numbers it falls between. Negative 27 is closer to negative 25, so it's going to be 5 point something. Alright, maybe about 5.2. Let's try out 5, and let's try 15/100 again, times 5 and 15/100. Alright, when I do that, 5 and 15/100 squared, it gives me an answer of 26 and 52/100. So I can say this answer is approximately negative 5.2. And for the final one, the square root of 145, we would have to use the square root of 144, the perfect square of 144, and the perfect square that follows that, which would be 13 times 13, which would be 169. 145 is closer to 144, so it's going to be close to 12, very close to 12, so we can say approximately 12. We know it won't be exactly 12.